All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. I'm here today on behalf of the folks over at humorouttcast.com. If you haven't checked them out yet, lots of content there. New postings pretty much every day. That's part of HOPress. They're a publisher. I want to shout out to Donna Kavanaugh. HumorOutcast.com, that's the place to take a humor break. A lot of different content, though, not just humor, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. I do have a guest and author. Marcy O'Brien is on the line. Marcy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Awesome. Now, Marcy is an author, and she's got a book called Rounding Third. And the byline is a warm and funny collection from a talented storyteller. How's the book going so far? Are you excited that the book is out?
Oh, yes. And doing exceedingly well locally.
Oh, that's great.
Hundreds and hundreds. I mean, it's wonderful.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
It's a good start. Let's put it that way. I'm pleased.
Yeah, well, good start's always a good thing. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Let me read just a little bit about the book, the little blurb that I have here. Marcy writes, with an eye for detail and a gift for putting you right there in the scene with her. Her wisdom and irreverent wit, the blessings of a well-lived life evoke lots of smiles, even an occasional tear, but she always leaves you with the lasting warmth of a visit from an old friend. Now, that's a good description right there, if I heard one. Where are you from, Marcy?
Originally from southern Massachusetts. Stoughton, Mass. is 18 miles south of Boston.
Okay. Or you said originally. Is that what you're in Pennsylvania, right?
I'm in Northwest Pennsylvania. I tell people that I came here for a sentence of 2 to 4. And that was 46 years ago. So it turns out we liked it. But part of me still feels like an expatriate because I'm too far from the Atlantic.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I'll tell you, that's good country there. I'm not far from you. I'm in Ohio.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Now, you've written a book. Have you had a career centered around writing, or was this something that you developed kind of on the side, or how did that work out?
This is career number 7.
Career number 7?
Yes, absolutely. Right out of college, I went to American Airlines. I stayed with them for 12 years, starting as a stewardess, then into flight service management, then to corporate. Then back to international flying after my first child was born. I left there and wound up teaching 4 years at Alfred State College in upstate New York, but in the business curriculum. Then I got into designer fashion, and while I did that, I went to school and became a kitchen and bath designer, and that led to interiors and sort of the whole package. So for about 3 decades, I kept myself really busy with that.
I guess so.
Should you want me to continue?
No, sure. Yeah, absolutely. This is great.
Okay, then I was married to my late husband for 40 years. And after he passed, it turned out that I did have to go back to work, and a friend called and offered me a job as the executive director of the Struthers Library Theater, a busy historic theater in Warren, Pennsylvania, and where I am. And it's the 18th oldest theater in the United States. And I was 66 when I took the job, and I thought, okay, I'll stay till I'm 70 or wears me out sooner. I don't know which comes first. And I stayed 11 years. And in the process, we put some additions on the theater and built programming and academics. And just before I retired, we became the National Theater of the Year.
Wow.
So it was a good run. I enjoyed it. It was a whole new world, and it's just a different language that I didn't know how to speak, but I learned quickly, faster than I thought I could.
Well, that is all fantastic. That's a great background, especially for writing, because you have so many of these things to call upon, all these different experiences now.
For writing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Family is an inspiration for you. And a lot of, your book has a lot of I guess the best way I would describe it is a lot of observations, and some of them are funny,
Yeah.
some of them are just, inspiring in terms of the people you meet, or sometimes they're kind of sad.
Uh-huh.
Um, when you have family members and close friends, do they ever say, I look, I don't want to be a story. Did they ever say that?
That
I
did
don't want to be,
happen once.
yeah, that happened once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But otherwise,
Understood. Yeah.
yeah, it's but otherwise, they're good. They're a good inspiration. The other thing I was going to ask you is, some of these stories. I mean, they're not like they're just from last year. They're all from an enormous time period, and they're so
Mhm.
detailed.
Mhm.
Like if I were to tell you a story about something that happened to me 10 years ago, I couldn't tell it in that much detail. So have you been taking notes? Have you been kind of in the process of writing this for years and years? How did you compile all your information so detailed over a large period of time?
Well, I'm one of those nosy people, Billy, who
Mm,
who I just want to see everything, and I do. And if you look, all of the stories have a date on them. So
yes.
all the details from 2012, for example, I saw them in 2012, and within a week wrote that column. And I started writing columns for the local paper once a month,
Oh,
which
okay.
wasn't much, and that was 20 years ago. Um, and then I progressed to twice a month, and then eventually every week, and now for 3 regional papers. So the collection is from all my newspaper columns. All of
Okay.
everything there has been published before,
I see.
and but the collection was I had a rude awakening when I was gathering it all together. I thought, these have all been published. I just have to pick out my favorites and get a cover, and I'm done, right? 11 months later, I'm still struggling to get this thing put together because I decided might only be my one chance. I should probably try and give it a good professional, polish. And
Yes.
the, well, and then it was not until I was getting ready to go to the publisher, I realized that what we'd selected was either personal experiences, some family, a lot of observation, a lot of travel, a lot of people I've known. And I realized it's a way of backing into a memoir. I didn't realize it was a
Yes.
memoir, but in a very different way, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I'd say is somebody who reads the whole book will know me,
Yeah.
a lot about me anyway.
I
So
would.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I bet you in a lot of ways it's more accurate than a memoir, because somebody who sits down and looks back on their life and writes a memoir, I'm guessing there's a little hyperbole in there. There's a little, so yours were written in real time, and they were
Yes.
observations that you made as the person you are.
Yes,
So
which includes a lot of the stupidities of every day.
that's what makes life grand. I guess that's
Yeah, right.
and I'll tell you, the nice thing about a book like this is, for people, you don't have to sit down and read it and remember all the plot details, and the you can
Right.
sit down and pick something out anytime, and if they're easy reads, and just here again, how share an observation that makes you feel a certain way, a certain emotion.
Right.
Is that kind of, yeah, I would say that's a great part of, is that what people tell you?
That's what I'm hearing every day is they don't have to follow the narrative, and it's great for traveling, but most of the way I like to hear that the book is being read, and I'm hearing this a lot, is 1 or 2 chapters or essays, whatever we want to call them, columns,
Mhm.
a night. And the people say, I read 1 or 2 and I go to sleep with a smile on my face. It makes me think about my life, um, as compared to Marcy's. I mean, and I just thought, wow, that that really clobbered me that people, but the relatability has been a factor because there's just a lot of common experiences in there. I mean, that we've all gone through. It's just putting them on paper, basically.
Yeah. I think there's a hunger for that. I talk to a lot of people, and the fantasy writing and all that is a good thing. I mean, that fills a need. But I really think the reader connects with the author when they, and in comedy is the same way. Seinfeld will say the same thing. When you can tell a story in a funny way, and people can say, "I know what it's like to be in that situation." I think
Hmm.
that's when people really relate to it. And you do that very well. That's something that here again they're entertaining, but they're things that people can certainly feel the emotion that you're telling at that time. So I'm sure that was one of the things that you hope the reader takes away.
Yes, that was a good realization, and I found that even in some of the, I guess it's some of the pieces that weren't meant to be funny, there's still a little sass here and there tossed in because it's the nature of the beast, I guess. That's who I am.
Yeah. Has your perspective changed? Because I'll tell you that 10 years is a good chunk of time, right? In any period of years. And I know a lot of times my observation as I've matured as an individual, sometimes I'll recall something that happened a long time ago. And I'll say, you know what, I wouldn't have responded that way now, or I would have handled that differently now, knowing, yeah. So when you go back and you look at some of these things, do you think maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I shouldn't have thought that, or maybe there's another way I should have thought about this? Did that happen to you at all?
Oh, a little bit. Mostly it was things I said I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, muzzling it has always been a problem. It's because my mother was a very spontaneous person, and I was also, and both of us were outgoing, and sometimes it's hard to, when you should, zip it.
Well, that's here again. You live and learn, and I have certainly said a lot of things over the years that I wish I wouldn't have. And sometimes it doesn't turn out so well, but sometimes the result is very good. As far as, with that being said, as far as your perspective and all those things, do you have a story that you feel is very close to you? Like, this is the one that really talks about who I am. Do you have one of those types of stories in the book?
There's different degrees of who I am. I mean, there's the public persona, and then there's the deep feeling, totally involved emotionally. And I can say that there's a story in it about my husband. This is actually two. One is short and one is longer than most pieces in the book. Maybe it's 3 pages. When you live with someone for 40 years, I feel very strongly that if you marry in your 20s, as we did in our late 20s, you finish your growing up together. I mean, you aren't fully formed when you decide to become a couple. And so the process after that, if the marriage is good and strong, which it was, is that you form your future as an alliance. And the 2 stories about him and a couple of stories about my mother are right down to where I live, deep inside. And a lot of the others are fun and out there on the edge and good laughs, but those are, pretty bare.
I can hear it in your voice as you're describing it. I don't doubt that that's part of the book that you hold near and dear. And it's very true what you said about growing up together. Now, my wife and I can tell you that we got married later in life. She was married before I wasn't. And we were well past our 20s and 30s. We were both in our 40s when we got married. And we often said, you probably wouldn't have liked me when I was 20. It's probably a good thing.
Right.
That, that we probably would have killed each other when we were in our 20s. So
I understand that, Billy, because I remarried.
Okay.
6 years after my husband died, I remarried, and a very, very different person, and who takes incredible care of me, and is a very loving, caring person. And I was at the stage in my life where I needed that. It's I think you work hard early in your life, and as I got older, I mean, who marries a 71-year-old woman when they haven't even become 70 yet? I mean, he was 3 years younger, and
Oh,
he rolled the dice, I guess. He really did, because he's going to take a chance on this fossil,
yeah.
and
Well, you're a
you know,
cougar then.
yeah, he said that kiddingly to my son, who did not appreciate that. So that's become a dirty word around our house, actually. Yeah, 3 years isn't much cougaring.
No, it's not.
15 years is a lot of cougaring.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's really good. Now, well, I'll tell you, ambitious people like you, you had a lot of different jobs and things. They often have those very powerful personalities. They're a pistol. Like you said, you have a lot of energy. Now, I got to ask you this.
Okay.
Since you were in the airline industry so long, what do you make of all these planes with all the doors blowing off and windows blowing off? What do you make of
Well,
all that?
I think Boeing definitely has made some mistakes, but I really am annoyed with the news people over reporting what's going on. Um,
Okay.
the For example, the other night it was the big headline story on the news that a United jet lost a tire on takeoff.
Yeah.
I would be willing to say that a tire falls off an airplane once a week, every week during the year. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's a matter of local maintenance. I mean, that's exaggerating perhaps, but tires fall off. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been in airplanes once or twice that the tires fall off. And one tire falling off is not the end of the world. It's like an
Yeah.
18-wheeler. It still keeps going. And they did the right thing. But Boeing shouldn't be blamed because the tire fell off
Yeah. I agree with
on
that.
takeoff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so I think the news media is over reporting it, but they do need to bring Boeing to task to fix what they've not got right at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Obviously, our podcast isn't about that, but that would be an interesting conversation because Boeing has had a culture shift, which changed the trajectory of that company.
Yep,
uh, which is
absolutely.
yeah, which is a whole nother conversation. But that's interesting to get somebody who definitely has the experience. I had to ask you that because I'm hearing this all the time. I got friends that are flying, and they're all and despite all the stuff that goes on, there's no question that flying is still very safe. They always say that the most dangerous part of your flight is the drive to the airport.
Trip to the airport, absolutely. It still is. And when's the last time you think about this? When's the last time you heard of a commercial crash?
It's been a while.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
been years. And it was a little tiny commuter in Buffalo
Hmm.
years ago. But when I started flying, there were two or three every year after year, and
Yeah.
some of them were really big. And that's gone because this industry grew up, and the manufacturers, grew along with it. I worked with Boeing a little bit when I was at American Airlines corporate, and
Hmm.
we were involved somewhat in design for the 747 galleys. And I mean, that's
Wow.
just small stuff, but it's very peripheral.
It's still
And I
very
found
interesting.
everybody there to be super professional and great, very welcoming, and but very professional. And I've always thought the highest of them, I'm sorry they've got these problems, but they have to solve these problems.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I agree. And that I hope they do because that company was a shining beacon of American aerospace.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and I hope they continue to be that. Boy, I'll tell you what, you light up when I mention things like that. I can see the business mind in there, and I'm sure that comes through in your writing. See, so many facets. You have this business mind. You have this sensitive side. In terms of your relationship with your marriage, all these things are coming across in your observations in the book, and that I'll tell you that right there, that alone makes the book interesting. What have you written about? So that is absolutely fantastic. Now, where can the book? Here again, I'm going to say the name. The author's name for those who are trying to find it is Marcy O'Brien, and
Mhm.
the book is called Rounding Third. Where can people find the book?
People have asked me, by the way, what's with the rounding third?
Yeah,
And I
what does
thought,
that
oh my
mean?
goodness, I'm in the autumnal period of my life. Of course, I'm rounding third. Home is in sight, but it's not. I'm not sliding forward to get there. Um, um, it's available at Amazon.com.
Hmm.
And they just have to put in my name, not even the name of the book, because there's 2 or 3 other rounding thirds out there. Some of them are quite old, but
Yeah.
my name will pop up, only my book. And if anybody wants an inscribed book, they could just contact me
Okay.
and through my emails, and that's on the website,
Okay. On the website. What is your website? Just so people can find it.
MarcyO'Brien.com.
MarcyO'Brien.com. It doesn't get any
Mhm.
more straightforward than
No,
that. That's absolutely
no, pretty
fantastic.
simple. Yeah.
Yes. I'm really excited about this book, and you're a fascinating person to talk to. I bet you got a lot of stories
I
about the business
do.
world. And
I do.
before I let you go, the acting, the theater, and so on and so forth. I'm guessing you're very much an artisan, and you really enjoy the performing arts. Am I correct about that?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
used to kid my husband every time you moved me before we arrived here. You moved me further from the ocean and further from Lincoln Center. What were you thinking? um, yeah. The one quick little interesting thing about the theater
Absolutely.
is that I had never stopped to think about the demographics of the area in terms of approaching it from a business point of view. And after I was at the theater for a while, I went up and down the radio aisle and realized that more than half the stations here are country. What are we thinking? Let's get these country acts in here. And we did a lot of fundraising and started to really bring in big names into this small town.
Hmm.
And so we did. We brought in, the Oak Ridge Boys and the Gatlin
Wow.
Brothers and Loretta Lynn and Clint Black and on and on and on. Lots of them. Tanya
Yeah.
Tucker, and they're all sellouts. And so we listened to our audience, and I got to know a whole different um, genre than I knew anything about. And they were all lovely people. Their
Yeah.
mothers raised strong, nice Southern people. I mean, it was a delight. The only thing was we couldn't get them here December to March. They didn't want to travel to
Yeah.
snow country, and I don't blame them. I mean, who wants to drive a bus from Kentucky to snow country and, or
Yeah.
Tennessee or North Carolina? I got that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this about country too. That's a genre of music that doesn't get enough appreciation, enough attention for the quality of the musicians. Some of the best guitarists, for example, rock and roll
Yes.
gets all the attention, but in jazz too. But country, I mean, Glenn Campbell, for example, one of the best guitarists ever. Okay,
Mhm.
all those people, fantastic musicians.
A A quick thing, when
Yep.
Loretta Lynn was there and her group was 5 or 6 men, I said to her during a break, I said, I can't tell you how nice it is to see men in they were Western suits with ties and polished boots and good haircuts and everything. And she said, Marcy, people put aside their hard-earned money to buy tickets to come see us. They deserve more than dirty T-shirts and ratty blue jeans. And she said,
Yes.
it's a point of pride with us that we always respect our audiences by giving them all we have.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, lady. I mean, she was incredible.
Yeah.
She was a lovely woman.
Yeah.
And but I thought, they've got it right. And they were very, very fussy and professional about everything they did backstage before,
Yeah.
during, and after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I totally believe that. You get that in country, and obviously you get that in classical music as well. But for the most
Oh,
part,
yes.
yeah,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
yeah. Most pop stars and rock stars and everything else, they look like they need vacuumed.
Yeah.
So
Uh, I agree with you about the classical, though. My daughter's family is all musical, and
yeah.
my grandson plays the double bass fiddle
Wow.
and in a Boston Youth Orchestra. So yeah, and there's singers and there's a lot going on.
Yes. And well, there's a lot going on with you, Marcy, because, you got the business background, you got the appreciation for the arts, you have this very sensitive side of yourself, the way you talk about your husband and your relationships and all these other things. So that tells me a very well-rounded, deep individual wrote this book. And I think the audience should give it a shot. Yeah, absolutely. Rounding Third is the name of the book. And it's Marcy O'Brien. You can go to marcyobrien.com to get more information. Marcy, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You were a delightful conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Pleasure was all mine, Billy. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Absolutely. Thank you. Also want to shout out again to all the fine people down at humoroutcast.com. When you get a chance, do check them out. That's a great place to take a humor break. HOPress, the publisher, that's intertwined with that website. And we want to shout out to Donna Kavanaugh from there as well. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast today. I really appreciate all the listens out there, and we will talk to you again next week.
Bye-bye.